Hello, everyone. Happy New Year. Oh, you guys have noticed already. Okay, okay. Roach, Afton, Dan, Vibes. Hello, Sam, Vic. Excuse me. Yeah. So first stream of 2026, and we have got some recapping to do. The first thing that you guys have already noticed is we've got badges, which is very exciting. Tender Lemon Wedge here in the chat, Mayumi, is my office mate, and she was kind enough to do all of these for us. So, let's take a peek at what you have to look forward to with getting your new sub badges. Oh, that ruins it. Don't show the preview. Okay. So this is badge number 1. Obviously, you're a larva. You're just starting out. This is a Hercules beetle grub, or a big scarab grub. So this is the 1 month, and you'll have this until you get the 3 month badge. Peaking a little bit, I think. My mic settings got a little bit weird. I can't really tell why. But this is the first sub badge, and then you graduate, and some of you have this one already, to the 3 month, which is a nice little globular springtail. We love a good globular springtail around these parts. And it's mid jump. So we've got the furcula out down here, so it's actively getting ready to spring, which I think was very, very cool touch. And then I don't know that we're here yet for anybody. I don't know that anyone has our 6 month yet. But here's our 6 month, our earwig. And the order of the badges did help after the tier list. So we took the tier list, kind of moved some things around, figured out where the important bits were. But earwig is 6. For 9, we have our Weevil buddy on the acorn. Seapaws, I thought about that. I thought about doing egg larva pupa bug adult. I felt like egg was so boring of a. There it is. Thank you, Google Docky. Thank you. She certainly deserves it for putting all the time into these things. We went back and forth a couple times on the designs, and she just did a phenomenal job with them. So here, Acorn Weevil. And then, last but not least, Lomax. Lomarx. Thank you for the follow. 1 year. Oh, that was anticlimactic. 1 year is, of course, the ground beetle. Fiery Searcher, to be exact. This is Calisoma Screwtator. So this is what you have to look forward to at the 12-month mark. Now, we do have we do have designs all the way up through 2.5 years, I believe. So we have a couple more designs after this. However, Twitch didn't give me enough slots. I think you have to be streaming for a certain amount of time to unlock the slots past a year. So I'm teasing these to get you to a year, but then we will have more coming up here in like next September, give or take. So very, very exciting stuff. And that's not all. Some of you may have noticed, maybe not. I didn't see anybody mention it, but channel points. No, wait. I think channel points was last. I forget what I wanted to do the reveal thing in. They have been Beetlebucks for a while, but we're going to hold that thought for just 1 second. I forgot I put this next. Beetlebucks is the big reveal because I think that's funny. This is the new Be Right Back screen. We will have this. It's not hooked up to the Stream Deck or anything yet. I didn't know how to put this onto my account just yet. But this exists. This is super fun. And we are, as of, I think, this morning, we are going to work on a digital version of our trusty green sticky note here. So we're not totally losing the charm of it, but we will be able to get rid of the actual physical sticky note. So we've got to be right back. We don't have a starting soon just yet, but it will be coming. And now we can talk about Beetlebucks. They have been Beetlebucks for Frame the Sticky Note. Oh yeah, I'm not going to get rid of it. We're for sure keeping it. But it would be nice to not have to like scrounge around on my desk every time to have to find this thing. Sometimes it goes under the microscope and I'm like, where'd it go? So we will be immortalizing the sticky note for sure, but bigger and better things are on the horizon. Anyway, channel points. Beetlebucks have been called Beetlebucks for months now. That was like one of the first things I actually changed when I figured out how to change settings here on Twitch. But they were still just the default little purple circle. Now, we have Beetle Coins. This is based on Omifron, which is the round sand beetle. And I think the round outside piece fits very well with it being the middle of the coin design. So yes, this is our Beetlebuck. A lot of crazy stuff happened. USD to Beetlebucks exchange rate. I think the US dollar is weaker than a Beetlebuck, to be honest. You get a real good rate coming to the US. And that's it. So our recap, again, our 1 month here. 3, the globular springtail. 6, the earwig. 9, the weevil. 12, the ground beetle. Our Be Right Back screen made out of worms. And our Beetlebucks. Exchange rate sheet. We could do that. So yes, thank you again. Tender Lemon Wedge here in chat is the artist who did all of these wonderful illustrations for us. We have some more in-depth ones too, with slightly different backgrounds on these that just wouldn't have shown up nearly as well as like the small badge size. So we might do something with those down the line. But what did we say? Was it Tender Lemon Art? Sorry, maybe I have to check my text. Yes, Tender Lemon Art on... I'm actually not sure what platforms. but you can find her stuff there. How are we feeling about that? Is that a good debut for 2026? We got our badge situation sorted out. Oh. Sick. So that was our first. Okay, here we go. That was our first roundup to the 2025 pieces of content, I guess we can say. Things that we've talked about in the past year. And that's what tonight is going to be sort of a wrap up. Yeah, everybody claps, please. You did such a good job. Oh, I have my own. Wow. My own 3-month subscriber. Look at that. X Instacara. Okay. Yeah. On X, Instagram, and Kara, you can find Mayumi stuff there if you too would like a non-denominational insect-themed currency built for whatever reason. But tonight's stream, like I said, is going to be kind of wrapping up some things that we have not yet finished. Some of the things that we've talked about in 2025, but did not get resolution on. The first thing that I think we are going to look at is probably the longest standing eventomology question, and that is, what happened to the Beatles in the freezer? Now, for those of you who may not have been here right at the beginning of stream, of not this stream, but of streaming as a whole, I got back from Arizona and we had some really, really big blister beetles. That had some really, really big, puffy abdomens. Something sort of like this. Well, in order to get them to be specimens, you do freeze them first. But what we did differently is, because these abdomens are so big, when they dry out, like when they're drying like a normal insect specimen would, the abdomen shrinks. And so it's not great. It's fine for ID purposes, but it doesn't look the best. And so we set out to figure out if we can fix this, or if we could make them not deflate like this. And while we were actually at the beetle course still, we had a little specimen dryer there, so we tried to dry them super fast so they wouldn't have time to deflate. That, in fact, did not work. They deflated more than before. So then the discussion came around to freeze drying. Pickle! What's up? Thank you. Daily dose here. I don't have any specimens ready, but wonderful Tarsus here for you. Thank you for our daily dose of toes. It is always appreciated. So anyway, the idea turned to freeze drying, which other entomologists use to preserve color on grasshoppers a lot of the time. They will leave them in a freezer for like upwards of 6 months, drying out super, super, super slowly. And for whatever reason, that preserves the color on grasshoppers. I've never heard of anybody doing this with beetles before, but my thought was that if the dryer dried it out super quick and shrunk up the abdomens, potentially leaving them in the freezer for an extended period of time, and these have been in the freezer since August, maybe, was that they would dry out slowly enough that the abdomen would not deflate. We have the results of this experiment, at least the last 5 months or so of this experiment. I might put them back. I might put them back because I'm scared of what's happened. So, we will look at some ones that I'm less happy with first. So, what's up? Hope you've been doing well. Haven't seen you around much, but hope everything's going well. Granola, hello. Check out your new sub badge. That's what you've missed so far. We covered the new sub badges and the new channel points and everything. So, this is our first result. And it is not what I was hoping. So the abdomen is really sunken in. From the top, you can see it's even worse. Just not exactly what we were hoping the outcome of this would be. It's still identifiable. It's still a cool specimen. But the freezer did not do as much as I would have hoped. But not all is lost, because yes, Granola. Yes. Today's stream is all about recapping some of our hits from 2025. So these are in fact the freezer beetles. Phoenix, hello. This one's a little bit better. This one is a lot better, actually. The red is not as bright as it was in the live specimen, but that's okay. From the top, this looks quite a bit better. But from the side, we are still dealing with some deflation action going on. It still didn't hold as well as I would have liked. This is still better than before, though. This is still better than the ones that we just did, leaving them out. And this is also still better than putting them in the dryer. Crushed soda can is exactly how I would put this. So it's not a total failure. Some of them worked, some of them didn't. Why is it concave? Because the temperature change is some kind of structural issue. It is a structural issue with these beetles. So this is what the live beetle looks like, I should say. So they have these like really, really big inflated abdomens, right? And we put them in a dryer to try to dry them quickly, and that didn't work. It made everything kind of crumple in. We tried just leaving them out. That doesn't work. So we tried the freezer option. And this is what we were getting from that. So we tried the first one. It didn't work super well. This one looked a little bit better, but still not totally great. Someone said stuff them like a tarantula, and that is certainly possible. At this stage, it's really not. Because I would have to rehydrate them to be super flexible again and then cut everything and stuff it. So maybe next time I catch these, which, you know, who knows when that'll be, because this is a Western thing. We don't get these in Florida anymore. Zorro, what's up? Welcome in. Maybe next time I'll try stuffing them, because that's a foolproof way to do it, right? You physically have cotton ball or something stuffed in the abdomen that can hold the shape while it dries. And you know, that could work. But again, we won't have replicates to try that. No time soon. But then we have this. Would air pressure help? Yes, I bet I could inflate it. Pressurize the freezer in some way or vacuum seal it. Yes. In theory, if I wasn't using the same freezer that I keep my groceries in. I don't have a specific freeze dryer. I just thought that maybe the cold would allow it to go down a little bit slower. If I had like a regular freeze dryer, it would totally work. It would work great, I'm sure. But we are making do with what we've got. The other option could be inflating it, you know, keeping air in the abdomen as it's drying. I had that problem with the big weevil larva that we looked at. Do you guys remember that? A couple months ago. We don't need to remember it. I have it right here. Doesn't sound good. This guy. When we were done looking at this, I must have left the lid off. And this thing dried out. It has been in alcohol since 20... It's probably been in ethanol for like 10 years, to be honest. And so it dried up and got really caved in, kind of like Phoenix said, the crushed soda can vibe. And so I decided to do a little bit of liposuction, but in reverse on it, where I took ethanol which, the stuff that it's in, and I used a little syringe to inject ethanol back into the body of this thing. So it plumped it up for us. And that's really nice, and it worked really well because this is going to stay in ethanol now, so the pressure inside and the pressure outside will be equal. So they won't, the liquid inside won't come out and the liquid outside won't come in. It'll just kind of stay. You could do something like this with the beetle. It wouldn't work to have it wet unless you were planning to keep the specimen in ethanol, which would not be my ideal, just because it's not typically how we store beetles. Stuffing it with cotton, I think, is the most reasonable answer. I have positioned and stuffed a full-on bird-eating tarantula before with like a 10-inch leg span, and the abdomen was about the size of a golf ball. And that thing had so many guts in it that it was so gross scooping that all out. But then I just stuffed it with cotton and it was totally fine when it dried. Have I thought about resin? Like thickening resin and injecting it into the abdomen? I would be less excited about that than I would be for just doing it with the cotton ball. All of that resin, if you can see where the pin is on these specimens, having that much weight off the back of the pin would probably just cause the pin to break after it was done sitting. If we were making a display of some sort, that might work, but just for putting them into the collection, I wouldn't want to do that. Again, I think cotton is definitely the simplest way forward if/when we do this again. But looking at this one, we don't have much crushed soda can vibe going on, do we? Pretty good from the sides. Pretty good from the top. Why does this one look better than the other ones that we have? Oh, you can't see it. Oh, well, that's stupid of me. Thanks for letting me know. Yeah, so it looks good from the top. It looks good from the side. So why is this one different than the other two that we have looked at so far? I couldn't tell you. I did the exact same thing with all of these, and I could not say why this one looks better than the other two that we've already looked at. Mini Pearl, hello. Mop, what's up? Yeah. So this one, pretty successful. In the batch with these other ones, it's probably the best one that we've got. A lot of these others are crushed soda can vibes, but we do have one big female that is not... It's not as nice, but I still think it's probably the best overall specimen. We're going to see how this works, because we haven't done influencer hand on specimens with the new camera yet. Ooh, it gets dark. But yeah, so this big one here, god damn. There we go. So that third one from the left, I think is the overall the best specimen in total. Even though this one is maybe this one right below it now is, I think, the most still rounded of them. But I'm very excited by that big one on the top. So, how did this experiment go? Eh, it was fine. Um, it didn't work exactly as well as I had hoped, but it did work. It did work better than just leaving them out or drying them faster. So we learned something. It was an experiment. We now have some data to see what could come of this. Is there anything I can do to combat the fading? Not really. With some groups, you can boil them in acetone, which is a whole other problem to deal with. The chemicals from that would be pretty rough. But some folks do that. With beetles, I personally don't care. Would I like them to stay brighter? Yes. Can I still identify them even if they're not exactly as bright red as when I collected them? Also, yes. So, in terms of ways to prevent that, that's what the grasshopper people do. They put them in freezers like we did to prevent the loss of color. If we had potentially a proper freeze dryer where we could get it to go fast, it might work. But with a household freezer, it only kind of works. Boiling acetone, which is, nail polish remover, would be horrendous. Like, you need to do it in a fume hood, and I do not have a fume hood at my house to work on that. So, not the best solution. Beetles fade, it's part of it. Insect collections do not look the same after you've pinned them as they do when you collected them, and that's normal. That's totally normal. So not much we can do on that, and not much we would really need to do on that. Like I said, this is a perfectly good specimen. And yeah, so we can incorporate them into the collection now after 5 or 6 months. I will confess that I'm a little scared about them. Because now, what if they're out of the freezer and now they dry and they collapse more? So, we'll have to see how the warming up process goes. I just pulled those out of the freezer as I was getting ready to come up here for stream. So they've only been out for, maybe 45 minutes. Over the next couple days until I get the chance to put them away, we will see if they crunch down more or not. I would like them to not, but beggars can't be choosers. Okay. We've caught up there. Next. Everyone's favorite part of stream, I think. More so than me. We have got our lovely lady Calypso. And her band of ants. Do they have a really thin exoskeleton because other big fat beetles don't crush? Yes. So they're what is called physogastric, which means that their abdomen is able to expand and contract. So in order to do that, they need to be really, really thin. But if you're thinking about like a Hercules beetle, which is a gigantic beetle, the exoskeleton on that is going to be a lot thicker. So yeah, that's part of it. This is Calypso. You can see her there in the middle. Y'all are familiar. It is time to offer them some protein. Typically, we don't do a lot of the actual colony management on stream, but I was doing my feeding of all my other animals downstairs. We have extra cricket today, so I am going to move the camera off of the main part of the nest over to like right here, and we will have the cricket in view and see how the ants deal with that. We'll get them to see them like recognizing that there's food and probably then dragging it away and taking it down into the nest. So I think this will be cool. I don't know how long we're going to let this go, but we might just sit and watch for a little while. We've got 1.5 more things that I want to talk about afterwards. And one of them I think will take a considerable amount of time. So I don't know how long we're going to watch the ants, but we're going to watch the ants. So I am taking the lid off. They do not like that. And we are just going to plop a cricket. And we already have the discovery. So, thank you. Enjoy your brand new shiny sub badges. So this ant has already found the cricket, and there it goes. There are 2 of them. It stung it a little bit to try to incapacitate it, and that singular ant was able to drag it along already by itself. There are now 2 ants that are freaking out, seeing if there's any other food. One of them just went down into the nest and is telling all of the other ants, hey, we've got a job to go do. So there's another ant down here that's going to start pulling it, but there are now 3 ants coming out, a couple more running around inside the nest. So they are going to have to figure out what to do with this. It's a quite big piece of food, and I don't know if they are going to try and drag it down whole or if they're going to piece it out. But you can see how a train. So now there are 1, 2, 3, 4. There are 6 workers out and about now, and they're just trying to figure out what to do with this. Some of them have started chewing on it a little bit already. And these others are still trying to figure out what to do in order to make sure that this gets back into the colony. Paper Jules, thank you for the follow. Welcome in. I hope you like ants eating. Yeah, it might be dough. I didn't see it, but this is a freshly dispatched cricket, so it might still have a little bit of movement going on. Nope, that's not what I wanted. There, that's what I wanted. Sure do. Well, you come to the right place, Jules. Thanks, Logan. Yeah, brand new. Oh. Still confused with things without spines. You mean insects. I thought you meant things on the insect that didn't have spines, like the ovipositor here. But I gotcha. I got what you're saying. So some of them are starting to go for certain pieces there. Maybe there's already fluid coming out of them that they're starting to feed on already. Are they eating him? Yes. Actually, they're eating her. Because y'all can see the straw usi coming out there of the cricket. So at this point, there are 9 ants out running around in various parts of the colony, or in parts of the nest. There's 5 or 6 that are on the cricket, and the others are kind of searching the perimeter, probably making sure that there are no other ants trying to come take this away from them. They're by themselves, they don't have any other food competition, but they don't know that. How did I dispatch this cricket? A swift pinch of the head. Just a little squeeze. You can see there's more and more and more ants coming to check this out. Chill downstairs. So they're all still trying to figure out the best course of action to take something so big back down into the nest. And I think their strategy is probably going to be dismembering a little bit. That top right ant is working at that knee joint. And so I think their plan is probably going to be able to take things apart and get them into more manageable size pieces before dragging it down into the colony. Paper Jewels. Finally glad I can read, I promise. I'm glad I get to finally tune into one of your streams. I love the Wednesday bug hunts, but haven't been able to tune in lately because you're busy. Well, thank you. I appreciate that. There is the Alveus Highlights channel that has all of the saved videos from past chat chats. I know it's not the same, but if you haven't been able to catch them and you didn't know that the backlog existed, definitely check that out. And then we also have the Discord, so I post recaps of what we talk about. If we talk about any papers or I need to link any images, I'll post them in there. So I appreciate that. I'm glad you enjoy them. And I like to try to make them discoverable and go back to check them out if you ever missed anything. As for what kind of ants these are, the whole colony Starting with the queen, her name is Calypso. Oh. And these are Florida carpenter ants, Camponotus floridanus. I caught the queen during a nuptial flight, which is where ant colonies will produce new queens to go out and found new colonies. And so the big ant, I'm going to take you off the cricket for just 1 second. That really big ant right there, that's Calypso. So she is the queen that has birthed all of these other ants. And so this is her colony. I got her back in June, and then it took until I think early September for her to start laying eggs, or for her to start for the eggs to start hatching into new ants. But now she's up to probably like 25 workers, and you can see, maybe, if we can get the zoom right. Oh yeah, look at that. They're sitting on like a new pile of eggs and pupae down there. So this colony can get really, really big. They can get to over 10,000 ants in one of these colonies. We'll have to keep expanding her container as she grows, of course. But yeah, so all of these ants came from just the one ant, the one really big ant that's in here. And all of the rest of these are her daughters. So that is Calypso, and like I said, these are Florida carpenter ants. Back to your regularly scheduled programming of Cricket Feast. And right now, very cool, you can see one of the soldiers. So this one here that's chewing on the middle leg, look how much bigger that head is. And overall, how much bigger body size wise that one is to the other ants that are on this cricket right now. So that's going to be one of the ants that goes out to defend the colony. And since they're in no need of defense at the moment, they're probably going to use her big muscly build to be able to drag this cricket back. But she keeps doing a little bit of searching around the perimeter, again, just making sure that there's no predators or anything coming for them. But now there are 2, 4, 6, 8, 10 workers outside plus the soldier. And there are 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14. It looks like maybe another 18 workers inside. So we're looking, like I said, at about a 30 worker colony at the moment, plus the queen, and plus all of the other larvae and pupae that are in there. So this will get growing in no time. They will outpace this pretty quickly. They can live in here for quite a while. But we will eventually have to upgrade this. I don't know how long, I don't know how fast these things grow, but this is pretty crazy for only having workers for like 2 months. Would the queen ever come out and nibble the cricket, or is that never done? That is never done. So she is moving now inside of the main section of the colony. And oh, it's happening. It's happening right. Oh, they stopped. So she's coming close to the entrance. I don't know what's happening actually. But typically what happens is that they will drag everything into the colony. The colony dies without the queen. They don't have the ability to reproduce anymore, and they won't self-sustain. So if there's no queen, there is no colony. So she is currently underground, under this red piece of glass that we have there. So she thinks she's dark. She thinks it is dark, and she is underground and completely safe. So they will piece this out and take some of it into their crop. and then they will go down and feed her, which is called trophallaxis. So they kind of baby bird it back into the queen. They feed her by taking pieces back down, and then the other workers will drag this down, and they'll use that to sometimes feed the larvae, or the queen will get her own section of this ant once they bring it back down into the colony. Courtney, hello. I think it's going pretty well, unless you're this cricket. This cricket's having a bit of a hard time, but we're doing well, I think. I never realized how big the queens were in comparison to the workers. I always find the queens in a crowd, but the zoom really lets you see the size difference. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Much bigger. And you think about that, they need to have that really big body size to bulk up, essentially, for the first starting point of this new colony. Because when they're sitting on their first batch of eggs, like the first workers that hatch out of these colonies, they typically don't go get food. So whatever food stores that they have in their body, these really big, comparatively ant bodies, allows them to not only provide nutrients to the first, round of larvae that she's taken care of on her own, but it allows her to not have to eat for those 2 or 3 months that go through that she has to go through when starting a new colony. As soon as she has her first round of workers, which are called nanictics, they're smaller in body size than the normal worker ants. As soon as those first handful of workers grow up, they start to do the foraging. So then they will go out and get food and get water and bring it back to the queen using this trophallaxis system. Look at this one down here, pulling on that leg. Do they look any different than later workers? Besides size, not really. The body plan is pretty similar. They're just smaller. Kind of think of it like the runt of the pack. Like she's putting just enough work into them that they can do things once they turn into adults. But she's not putting in a ton of resources because if they don't work out for whatever reason, she needs to be able to continue creating more ants. Watch him pull on this leg. I keep saying him. These are all female ants. All ants in a colony are female. But you can see this bottom one really, really kind of going at it on that leg there. And like I said, I think that's probably going to be their strategy, is to break it down into smaller pieces to take back in. We're back. That was sick. I did not have disconnect protection turned on until yesterday, I don't think. So that was pretty cool that worked. What are those long spiky things next to the Straussii? Those are called cerci, Cerci, and it is the same structure that is on an earwig. So earwigs have those thick pinctures. Those are also cerci, but any sort of projection off the end of the abdomen like this, typically in pairs, is a cercus, Cercus. But together they're cerci. It's just another sensory organ that allows them to feel and sense things kind of behind them. Are there lone male bachelor ants wandering the lands looking for queens. No. So they do all of their banging in kind of one go. So when colonies reproduce, they will make alates, which are males and females that have wings. They then disperse, so the males and females will fly off, and typically all of the colonies of a certain species in a certain area are going to be flying at the same time. So that way, females from this colony and males from this colony will eventually meet up and mate. And sometimes she will mate with more than one male. That happens pretty frequently. But then she hangs on to that sperm for the entirety of her life. So all of these ants that we have now came from whatever mating that Calypso did before she wandered onto my blacklight sheet back in June. And all of that sperm will stay stored with her for the next 5, 8, 10 years, however long the colony lives. So they can store sperm for a very, very long time. And once they're done mating, male ants just die. They have no role in the colony at all. And so once that queen mates just that first time before she founds the colony, that's all the mating that she will do then for the rest of the time. And the male ants only mate those couple of times, and then basically they move on with it. She's scandalous. Yeah. Let a girl live. You know? She's doing whatever. Looks like they clean their antennae every so often. Is that what they're doing? Either way, it's adorable. Yes. Yes, that's absolutely what they're doing. Ants and insects in general, the antennae are really, really important sensory structures. So they don't have a nose. So they're doing all of their sniffing and chemical communication with each other via their antennae. So they're picking up on pheromones and chemicals that they're putting out that they're like, hey, we found food, come over here and help us. And that's how they're getting all of these ants into one place. And that's how they communicate with each other in the dark, you know, under a rock or under a log or under our red piece of glass that we have here. So they use their antennae for a lot of different things. And so they do keep them quite clean. And when they're doing that, they're also sort of like clearing the calculator a little bit, you know, taking off whatever that last scent was to be able to pick up new signals as they go back to, you know, feeling around with their antennae. So Bug's Ant's life is wrong. I assume you mean Bug's life. Yes, Bug's life is totally wrong. Flick should have been a girl in that for it to be completely accurate. Oh, look at the ovipositor. It's getting split right now. That ant on the far right is taking is splitting the ovipositor down the middle. And that is how it's designed. She did not cut that perfectly straight line down the middle, but it looks like she's trying to remove that one piece. So again, I think they're trying to dismantle this bit by bit to take back into the colony. Oh, you know what? They're doing some feeding already. So look at this group right here. These ones here are doing trophallaxis. They're doing the spit swap, essentially. They're feeding each other right now. So they're regurgitating food material from the cricket to the other workers that are here in the colony. And you can see again how they're using their antennae to communicate and kind of like get each other's attention and talk to each other there. So that was kind of neat that we had that happening already. But we go back. We go back here, and they're still working away at it. Crunchy, yeah. What is my take on the movie Ants? I remember watching it in the 90s. I remember the termites kind of scared me a little bit, if we're being honest. Um, I did not think it was as good as Bug's Life. And they're, often directly compared because they came out very, very soon after one another. Bug's Life is the superior movie, in my mind. But it has been a while since I've seen Ants. Who was in that? That was Woody Allen. Is got canceled at one point. And so I haven't really had the desire to go back and see it because I didn't remember it being very good to start. What do I think about Charlotte's Web? I think it was good. I liked the end where they were, and I will say, a lot of these bug movies have nuggets of truth in them. So in Bug's Life, for instance, the queen, the queen ant, is the oldest female in there, and Dot and Princess Ada are the offspring of that queen. So that's 100% accurate. That completely tracks. The fact that she has that little aphid as a pet is also scientifically accurate because ants will often tend aphids. Aphids produce a very sweet, sugary substance that ants will get their sugars from that. And so there are ants that will take care of aphids like cattle almost. And so her having a pet aphid is very scientifically accurate. And then Princess Atta, Atta is her name. Atta is the genus of leafcutter ants. So there are bits and pieces in there that make it like fun as an entomologist to watch of like, oh yeah, like that's like a fun little thing that you guys weaseled in there. I don't remember ants having much accuracy to it. Again, because those were the protagonists were male ants, and that's just like not how that goes. Charlotte's Web was good. I do think it was also good spider PR. She was based on a thing called a barn spider, so that makes sense that she was in the barn with the other animals. Barn spiders are not often what are called writing spiders, though. And I think that was what they were going with, Charlotte being able to write words in her web. Writing spiders are the same family, but a different genus than barn spiders. So, bits here and there. But it does show spiders in a positive light, which does not happen very often in pop media. And then at the very end, where the babies fly away on the wind, that's a behavior called ballooning. And that is exactly how baby spiders get places. And then, spoilers, I guess, for I have no idea how old movie, but Charlotte dies at the end. And that is also very accurate in terms of spiders typically will lay their eggs and then pass on. We got some movement. We got some movement happening. We're going towards. Oh, I'm sorry. I really thought that movie was like beyond the age of spoilers. Donkus, Happy New Year. Hello, welcome in. Oh, everybody, speaking of Donkus. Mm. 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 Where did I put it? I had it here. I brought it up specifically for stream. What the hell? I'll be right back. Keep watching ants. Aha! I found it. It was under some Pokemon cards. Came out in 2006. Okay. Ants are doing things to the carcass, but it really looks like they're just tapping it a lot. It takes time with how big they are compared to how small, or how big it is compared to how small they are. But this is what I wanted to show off. This is a Donkus original. Very cool metallic leaf beetle. So I got some original Donkus art, which is very, very, very exciting. I can't wait to hang it up. There are... Wait, let me check. There are still more beetle things ready if y'all want to order anything. She also has made some cool cherry paintings, as well as some forest friend jars, which are like cool little terrarium builds. But yeah, Donkus leaf beetle painting. Very sick. Love this thing. I'm very, very excited to I need to frame it and then I'm gonna take it into work. But yes. Very sick contribution to the bug art wall. Captured forest sprites and put them in a jar. Excellent. Elias postcards. Yeah. All right. We've got, again, Donk Arts. This shit rules. Support your local artists. Support our community members. W Donkus, as always. But now we're back to the ants gently tapping their cricket. We got some movement. They're doing some dragging. They might decide to just drag it down. I don't know. So this is where the ants are. And this is where the entrance to the colony is. So they're not super far. It's maybe like an inch and a half. But they do still have to drag that whole cricket down there. And I don't know if that whole cricket's going to fit down the hole, to be honest. So I keep waiting for them to rip a chunk off here to really prove my point of them dismantling things to bring them down. I also thought they were going to be taking it apart, Tonkus. Because it looks like they are. Some of them seem to be chewing like on leg pieces and things like that to bring it down. But they did pull it a little bit. So I don't know if they're going to try and drag it first and then dismantle it. But they're still working on it. And that one that was chewing on the ovipositor seems to have given up. Get more cricket in frame here by turning the colony. How long their antennae are? Yeah, so they use them for feelers. They've got a lot of space out in front, especially in the dark. It helps them navigate around tunnels and around each other in the dark. So yeah, the antennae are super long, and that first bend is all one segment. We've talked about geniculate antennae before, or like bent or elbowed antennae, like we see in weevils. But ants are also another example that have that. So that whole first segment, or that whole first long piece before the bend, is one antennal segment. And then everything after the bend is multiple smaller segments. He's looking at another set of arms. Yeah, I mean, they feel with it for sure, but they can't pick things up with the antennae, so it doesn't help them in that way. But they do already have 6 legs, so they're already doing a little bit better than us. Where's the project management? Yeah, I don't know how the structure of that works, how they decide what's going to happen to certain pieces, or how long this is going to take. How long can this amount of food last them? This will be a couple weeks. This is a big prey item. They typically will feed on much smaller things more frequently. But something this big, they will take their fill of it for a couple days and then drag the rest out because they don't want it to like rot in the colony. And if they don't, I can still pick up the glass and I can take it out to make sure it doesn't rot. So yeah, this'll last them a while, especially with how small relatively this colony is. If this was 100 ants, we would need to be putting in multiple crickets to keep them going. But with just this number, this cricket is like a massive meal. I feel like the two in the front are trying to pop the head off. I think so. I think they're trying to chew through that the intersegmental membrane that allows them, like that would allow them to take the head off. But they're not doing it yet. It's not off yet. Yeah, and I thought that other one is trying to chew through the ovipositor there. If an ant in the colony dies, what do they do with it? They throw it out. So ants are really, really clean bugs. They have separate areas in the colony for disposing of trash. So if there's like seed covers or anything else from things that they've been feeding on, the old dried husks of old crickets or flies or whatever they were feeding on, it all gets taken outside the colony into like a trash pile. And when ants die in the colony, oh, she got a piece off. Look under that ant on the right hand side. There's a chunk of it that came off. So she got one of the sides off, which is exciting. We're making progress now. Look at him go. But anyway, when they die, they will get carried to the garbage pile, essentially. Um, and an individual ant's lifespan is probably, a couple months. And so the only ants we've had die so far have been the Nanictics, like the first ones that she makes after she starts the colony. Um, Everyone else, I haven't had to clean up any dead ants recently. The ovipositor's going sicko mode. Yeah. Going kind of nuts back there. But right, like they need to get through the exoskeleton to get to the goopy bits on the inside. They're not going to eat the outside of this. They're going to eat all of the muscle and all the tissue and the guts inside the cricket, right? So they're trying to get through right now to take the head off so they can take that down and basically clean it from the inside. I don't know why this one is going for the ovipositor. I can't imagine there's a lot of meat in there. But yes, it is sort of like they're eating a lobster. Ooh, that front one, that head. Look at that head. Look at the head. It's getting loose. Oh, they're pulling the head off. They are pulling the head off. They're making a lot of progress. Do I have a circle of food? Like cricket dies, goes to ants, ants die, go to something else. No. This cricket did not pass of natural causes. This was a deliberate feeding. So, you don't want to feed dead stuff usually because they could have they started rotting or getting gross on the inside. You don't want to feed that to other stuff. So this was a freshly dispatched cricket that they're feeding on. And the ants, when they die, again, they're old. You don't want them necessarily to get fed to the other stuff, but they also dry out pretty quick. So it wouldn't be the ideal food circle. That ovipositor is off. Look at her chunking it up. She's got like 3 pieces. She's got like 3 or 4 pieces up on the right hand side now. And you can see this bottom middle one is also like really getting into some of that exoskeleton. And there's a piece down there that she's also trying to take off. They're definitely making progress on this. Which is pretty neat. And I don't want to get away from this action for too long. But over here, these two, and of course they stop now that I move them. We're just trophallaxising, so feeding each other again through the vomit system. Look at that dismantled ovipositor. Look at that. You can't see anything, Donkus. It just looks like they're kissing. Now kiss and throw up. Yeah. What is a little vomit between sisters? This is pretty cool. I've never sat and like watched this happen, especially this close, and I've also never had to commentate on it. So it's really interesting to see how like their thought process goes in here. Yeah, still okay. You're gonna tell us your first bug of the year or what? I could. I didn't know people were asked. I didn't know people asked. It was in fact a ground beetle, which was very exciting. That I got in my backyard. Um, it's downstairs in the freezer, so I don't have it with me right now. But yeah, first bug was a ground beetle, so check and check. My first bird of the year was a barred owl. At about 4 a.m. on New Year's, I woke up to go pee, and there were some barred owls outside of my window, hooting and hollering at each other, which was very, very cool. Um, so that was sick. And then I posted it in Bugcord, but I went I was doing my early season birding, and so I go out and try and pull up my life list for the year, and I got to see. We'll do this quick before the ants make any more progress. But this is an Atala caterpillar, or an Atala butterfly, and then this is the caterpillar. I posted both of these in Bugcord if you want to look at something that's not my phone. Oh, that looks good. Why won't this one focus? There we go. That looks pretty good. So these were not my first bugs of the year, but they were pretty solid. Pretty solid finds. And you know me saying that is it means something because they do know how I feel about Lepidoptera. A few herons perched in a tree a couple days ago. Very nice. I was a little late for stream today because I was out looking at a bird. There's a pretty rare thing in our area right now called a lesser nighthawk, which is a western species. I'd seen it plenty of times in Arizona, but it's rare being here in Florida, and it's at this park that closes at 5 p.m. And nighthawks are crepuscular, so they show up right as the sun is going down, so they can feed on all the insects that are flying around at that point. Um, and so this park that it's at had a special event tonight where people were allowed to go in and we were allowed to stay afterwards to go try and see this bird. And there were 150 people that showed up to look at this thing, which was very, very exciting. Really fun community event, but they closed at 5 o'clock, or the thing started at 5 o'clock and then ended at 6. But then I had to get out of the parking lot and also come home and eat dinner. So we were a little late on the start today, but we had a good reason because we were looking at birds. Park After Dark events are so neat. Yeah. So the person who was, chaperoning us down there was the events coordinator for this park. And as I was walking down, I looked at the habitat and I was like, that's some cool bug habitat. Like there'd probably be some really neat stuff here. And so I asked her, we're waiting for the bird to show up. I went up and I introduced myself. I was like, hey, do you guys ever do insect programming here? And she goes, oh, we would love to. We have had it in the past, but we don't have. She's like, I don't have an entomology connection. And I went, well, you do now. So I gave her my card. Hopefully she'll email me and we'll probably be able to organize something there, which I think will be really, really neat. Um, it didn't have one? What? Oh, yeah. Yeah, yeah. So she had one now. It was great. And so hopefully we'll do some blacklighting or something down there at some point. Um, it's always cool to see what we can find in more urban parks because it gets people excited not only about like, oh yeah, neat cool bug in the jungle, but also neat cool bug in my backyard. So I do really, really enjoy doing local mothing and butterfly or mothing and light sheeting nights and other activities too. You can do bug stuff during the day, but the blacklight sheet is you guys have seen the live bug hunts. It's like you've never seen that many bugs in one place, and to have someone there being able to explain what you're seeing is really really cool. So hopefully we'll get something arranged once it gets a little warmer. Oh, we got a leg removed, bottom middle leg coming off, or coming off very shortly at least. They're making some moves. That is going to be the first drumstick to go. I can tell. I don't know. Top left is also kind of going crazy right now. Not the one on the head, but oh, look at those! They got the leg off. Let's go. Oh yeah, you're totally right. That is the wing. The drumsticks are the big ones on the back. That ant's on the move. Look at her. She's got it picked up. Why are you going back to the ant carcass? That's not where you go. You have to take that into your friends. Like crab legs. Do they distribute food equally between everyone, or do some eat more than others? I bet it is not completely equal. Um, the ones that are inside the nest, taking care of babies and whatnot, have to get fed by these other ants. And so it's very likely, there she goes, taking it down, getting stuck at the door. But she is in, taking the leg right there, and getting it now into these ants that have not left the nest because their jobs are to tend the babies, but the food has now been delivered. The DoorDash is here. So now these ants that are going to be feeding on this piece now are ones that hadn't yet left the nest. So they got their food even though they weren't the ones out there getting the food. Are we able to see the queen? Yeah, absolutely. She's right there. He's actually right near the chicken wing. And so yeah, there are still the ants that are out taking the cricket apart. But like I said, they're bringing the pieces down to help feed the other ants in the colony. They are feeding the colony as a whole. Not every individual has to go out and get their own food. They rotate through jobs as they get older. And so their first job typically is taking care of the larvae. So those are the younger ants. These are the older ants now that are out exploring and getting food. And the idea behind that is you're sending the elderly out, but they've already done the job of taking care of the babies. And so if something were to go wrong and all of these scout and food ants are stomped on or eaten or squished or whatever, there are still ants back at the colony taking care of babies, so that when those babies then grow up, the other ants that were taking care of them can go out and forage. So this is what's called the reproductive division of labor, meaning that at different points there are different jobs that these ants will have, and that's one of the key things for being a truly social insect, is that ability to kind of split jobs between different individuals. That bottom leg is gone. I don't know where it went. They must have taken that down in there too. There's 2 legs missing. No, it looks like there's 3 legs missing actually. We've only got the 2 big ones and then the middle one up on the top. They're certainly making progress. I've never heard about Park After Dark events, but I googled it and there are some nighttime spotlighting in wetlands nearby for frogs. That's very sick. You should totally do that. Oh, there was a leg missing from the beginning. Well, okay, they still took a second leg. Oh, let's look at them. No. They don't like it when I move. Look at these 2. They're kissing. They're kind of going hard on there, chewing up everything that they got. And then back out to our intrepid explorers. One show until I did, Chandler did, and he couldn't figure out what the platypus was. That's pretty funny. There should be a pretty banger show and tell coming this week. I don't want to spoil it or whatever. I won't share any of the pictures, but me and Logan and Ophelia and Speedbong in 420, all Alveus chatters. We went to the zoo on Saturday. So I won't post any pictures from that. That'll be, I'm sure somebody is doing a show and tell picture for it. We specifically took a group photo because we were like, somebody has to do this. So yeah, that'll be a pretty fun one on Friday. Where was our invite? I don't. Mm-hmm. It was all the Florida people that we were aware of. Um, I don't know. Maybe next time. We went to the Central Florida Zoo, which is in Sanford, Florida. Oh, they got the Cersei off in the back now too. They're still trying to get in the back there, but they got another piece off. Australian meetup when. Roach, I told you. I'll let you know. I would love to go. Australia is like very, very high on my list. I want to see the Beatles that have sex with beer bottles. I have to come up to Atlanta for the Georgia meetup. I would love to go to the Georgia Aquarium. I have never been to the Georgia Aquarium or the Atlanta Zoo. So, at some point, I'll make it up there. Ralph Chugs. Can you bring bugs back internationally? Or are there rules for that? There are certainly rules. It depends on which country, how lax or how strict those rules are. Um, but yeah, there is always some sort of process, and if there's even if there's nothing from a different country, they don't require permits or anything like that. The U.S. still considers it wildlife, so you have to have a 3177 import permit. So there's paperwork either way. But yes, typically you do need permits, and that can range from something where you're able to get it yourself as like a personal collector. You're just like, oh, I'm just interested in bugs, I would like to collect some while I'm here, and they go, okay, that's fine. To you have to be working with someone in the country to be able to go out and collect and bring stuff back. To some are like using any sort of trap, like blacklights are illegal in some places, so you have to collect insects by like sweep netting or by hand otherwise. So yeah, there are lots of different rules, and you definitely should not just bring bugs back when you travel. There's a lot of restrictions around that. Can't wait to go back to Colombia. Oh, that would be so sick, Vic. Awesome, awesome, awesome. Why did you air quote wildlife? Bugs are deaf wildlife. I agree with you. I agree that they're wildlife. Under the rule of the law, a lot of time they are in fact not wildlife. California has a statute that essentially groups insects with fish because legally they can protect fisheries because there is a governmental asset like assigned to that, but there wasn't a governmental department of insects. So under old California law, there couldn't be any like endangered insects that could then get like protected by the law because there was no way for them to govern that. So California has listed insects as fish, which is ass backwards and a whole bunch of stuff, but like it's allowed them to put protections in place for some of these things that otherwise wouldn't be able to have them. And most places don't count bugs as wildlife. Florida doesn't matter. You don't need a permit to collect bugs. You don't need anything to do anything with bugs in Florida unless you're in like state park property. So yeah, I would rather them be listed as fish. But most of the time, wildlife laws don't apply to insects. And so That's why I used air quotes. I know that they're wildlife. I fully agree that they're wildlife. Most people don't think that. There's a lot of people that don't think bugs are animals, and that's like a whole other thing. It's like, well, why are you guys counting an ant as an animal? It's like, well, what else would it be? It's not a plant. It's not a fungus. What's your third category? Like, oh no, it's a bug. It's a bug. Bugs are different. Bugs aren't animals. It's like, what do you mean? Of course they are. What else would they be? You guys, I am so with you. You are, obviously I am preaching to the choir here. You guys know that. I know you know that. The public as a whole, you would be shocked at how often people don't think that bugs are animals. Again, like, what else would they be? And they're like, no, bugs are a separate category. And it's like, no. Are you... And a lot of the time, I think what's happening is that they're confusing animal with mammal, which I can agree, bugs are not mammals. But mammals are not the only type of animal that exist. So yeah, it's a whole thing. And like I said, I know all of you know that. You are a very smart chat, and I am very lucky to have such a like-minded chat. But yeah, having done like tons of public outreach over the years, it is extraordinary how often you hear that bugs are not animals. Weevils are my favorite mushroom. Many people I know don't count bugs as animals, also don't count people as animals. Yeah. They're like, again, what else would we be? Fish and birds animals. So like, yeah. I don't know, man. It's a whole thing. It sounds crazy, and I agree. It's like a wild thing to have to say that. But yeah, some people don't think the bugs are animals, and I'm like, again, what else would they be? Your other categories, plants and fungus. It's not one of them. Also consider fish and birds animals. Yeah. And like I'm telling you, I've had this discussion a lot. This has come up a lot, and I'm like, okay, let's work through this here. What about fish? They're like, well, yeah, fish is sometimes they say no. I said fish one time, somebody said no, and I was like, I don't know how to progress from here. there's no middle ground at that point. You're like, what are we talking about? But it's like, okay, fish. They're like, yeah, fish is an animal. And then I'm like, okay, crabs and lobster. And they're like, oh yeah, crabs are an animal. I'm like, okay, why is an ant not an animal, but a crab is? Like, it's so fascinating to me in like the worst way. It's like watching those videos of car crashes on YouTube. I don't get that. That's not my thing, but this is like my equivalent of this. Is like trying to figure out where these people understand this. Because it's like, where do you draw the line? And like, why is that your line? If crabs are animals, but ants are not, like, because it's wet? Because it's wet bug? Shrimp is bugs? I Again, it's so crazy to me. Can't say it's the size because there are mammals that are smaller than some bugs. Yeah. Yes. Even if they've never seen the big tropical beetles that are like, this big, we have Hercules beetles in Florida that are, an inch and a half, 2 inches long. Those are bigger than some animals, still, like some mammals, I should say. Like, I really just don't understand what the other category is. It's like, yeah, we learned plant, we learned fungus, we learned animal, and we learned bug. Like, I don't know. Things I eat. Is it eatable or petable? Honestly, yeah, that might be where the line is, People can't agree on some various categories and what counts as what. Yeah, it's the whole thing. Oops. Got a pinch. That was Chandler going live, everybody. Mice are smaller than the average Australian spider. I believe it. I fully believe it. So yeah, that's a weird conversation that you get to have sometimes when you're doing this. I don't know, Chandler after the marathon. I was so happy for him. That poor man. That poor man was live for 7 days. So funny. Yeah, watching that Minecraft marathon was pretty tragic, but he did it, and I knew he would do it. I knew he would do it. But he's a grinder. His dad even came in and said that's Chandler's thing, is that he never gives up. And we've seen that now with the Minecraft stream. We've seen that with the kickflip thing. He's tenacious. He's a super nice guy too. When I met him at Elvis, he was homey for sure. Now y'all see me acting like a degen in his chat because it's one of the only places where I feel safe doing so. All in jest, all love to Chandler. Very happy for him that he finished that, but glad he wrapped that up. He could take a break a little bit. I did question his choice at the end though. To Twizzlers? Twizzlers is going to be your celebration candy. That's absurd. That is absurd to me. But like, whatever floats his boat, that's fine. That's his thing. I just can't imagine that being the thing that he decides on after 100+ hours of being live. I just I could not believe that. He can't taste. It's all texture based. That's fair. That's fair. Yeah, I forgot he did lose his taste pretty badly. Granola Shoveler, I am a gummy bear guy, or gummy worms, actually. Um, I will say, not much of a candy guy in general. Um, Certainly not chocolate, but I do enjoy a good gummy animal. Worms are animals, everybody. Again, going back, worms are animals. Salted black licorice. Again, I do like a good little black licorice gummy bear, or black licorice like the chewy ones. I do like those. I do not like the super overly salty things. Uh, the salted black licorice is not my favorite, but I can get behind that. It wouldn't be my first choice, but I like it enough. But yeah, gummy worms specifically. My ideal road trip. My road trip combo that you get when you start, you're a couple hours in, you need a little bit of pickup. It's a bag of Smart Food white cheddar popcorn and a bag of gummy bears. And then you pour the gummy bears in the popcorn, and then you chug the popcorn. So then you get both at the same time. That is the ideal road trip snack for me. Also, large fountain drink of some sort. Um, I will either just drink it out of the bag, like save on a dish, or I will get like an extra soda cup and mix it together in there, because the white cheddar popcorn, it gets on your fingers. So I don't want to be going into the bag and getting my hand all dirty. So I always have it in a separate vessel so I can hands free enjoy the popcorn. I always mess up some Swedish fish. Based as hell, Courtney. Love that for you. Savory person through and through. Stronger licorice. Better. Like when my food hurts me a little. Okay. Okay. Sour gummies. That's normal. I'm fine on that. Yeah, and some peanuts. That is disgusting. Okay. Fucking mayonnaise chicken nugget roach. Calm down. Afton, Evan, we're friends again. When were we not? That's news to me. Combo move, okay. M&M's with the popcorn. Tortilla, let's hear it. What do you got? Road trip snack pack. Hummus with veggies and wheat thin. Okay, that's that's fair. I mean, I don't think that's a bad road trip snack. I just don't think you're getting that at a seedy gas station. We're not friends anymore. What do you mean no candy or chocolate? Okay. I missed that. Did miss that. Yeah, I know you bring a cooler. That makes a lot of sense. You're a parent, so you kind of have to have that. I am a 30-year-old man with no ties. I can just go get candy from the gas station whenever I want. And so, especially doing like really long road trips, I've had, when I moved from Pennsylvania to Florida, that was like 16 hours. Florida to Kansas was like 16 from Arizona to Kansas, then like 32 from Arizona back to Florida. I've done a lot of really long road trips. And so you know, I have my go-tos. They're really going at that head membrane right now, which is kind of nuts. You can see if that bottom one moves its head. I realize we stopped talking about the ants for a while. Um, there's a pretty big hole that they've made there that they're still trying to get that head off, but they're making progress. Cooler specifically for my car, based. I don't think enough ants are working on dismantling. Take it up with the union leader. PB&J tacos. Single slice of bread with a squeezy peanut butter and jelly. Okay. How many ants in my colony? Great Sea Paws, we've got about 30. I haven't specifically counted. Um, I'm kind of doing my best now that some of them are out and some of them are in. There we have about 30 plus the queen plus all of uh the eggs and stuff that are still in there. So that's what we're working on, or that's what we're working with, I should say. And right here, they're kissing, they're kissing. So this is trophallaxis happening right in front of us. One of those ants was probably uh, at the cricket, and one of them was probably not. I would imagine the one on the right is the one that is regurgitating the food right now. For the one on the left, so they're feeding each other right now. Is what's happening. Dimitri, hello. Uh, Dead dragonfly's thorax was see-through, so you can see ants inside of him. What a perfect stream for you to come in on, because we are currently feeding ants a cricket. How big would the colony get? These ones can get upwards of like 10,000 ants, and that's like a very old, very mature, and well taken care of colony. Like that's like a wild colony size. Um, we will keep upgrading them as they grow, but they'll be fine in this until probably they hit like, I would say at least 200 ants. So we have a while before they move again, but this is still quite small in the grand scheme of things. Road trip, go to hot coffee, Wawa sub, based as hell. X mix for salt and vinegar chips, no sweet. Very fair. Paper Jewels, I grew up in a Wawa area, and then I haven't had Wawa for the last couple of years because I was on the West Coast. Turns out, where I live now has built Wawa since the last time that I was here, and I am here all the damn time. I don't drink coffee either. That's like another weird thing. I don't really like chocolate. I don't really drink coffee. But I have an insulated Wawa mug, and I loved it out west because I was cool and I had this thing from the East Coast like, oh, what's Wawa? Now I just look like like a poser where I'm like, oh yeah, this place that's local to me, I'm gonna buy a coffee cup. But it was cool and eccentric before, and I'll stand by that. Roach, I have a question that I could probably Google. What is wrong with those gel ant farms? I've never used one, but I've heard they're bad. Oh, granola, even better. Pub subs are great. Quick trips are solid. In and out. I think In and Out's just okay. I lived in an In and Out area for quite a while, and I did. Oh, we are just in time. Look at that. We are just in time. Wawa High School. I'm glad you guys have strong opinions on this. I thought I was the only one that had strong gas station opinions. Head is off. Yeah, Roach. A Wawa is a gas station that has like a deli inside of it that you can get sandwiches made. And it's unbelievably tasty. They're so cheap. And you get a lot of sandwiches are good. I'm answering your question, Roach, but we're following the cricket head into the colony first. We're seeing where the head goes. Oh, there's the queen. There's Calypso. Maybe she'll get a nibble. Buc-ee's is pretty cool. I went to my first one right after I was at Alveus. And it was, I'd gotten some of the food items that I was recommended, and then I was like, damn, that was pretty good. I'm going to stop at the next Buc-ee's that I go to as well. So then I drove all the way through until I got to like the border of Florida and Alabama. And that's where I slept that night. It's because I wanted to get more Buc-ee's. Yeah, Dimitri, these are Florida Carpenter ants. Okay, so back to Roach's question about the gel ant farms. Ant farms in general don't work out the way that people think they will. Because, like we were just saying earlier, without the queen, there is no colony. And so when you order those ant farms online, they only send you workers, which means that you will, at most have the ant farm for 3 or 4 months. Because there's no new production of ants, right? If there's no queen, they're not making more individuals to maintain that colony and keep it going. I don't know why the gel is particularly worse. I imagine it has something to do with um the material that they're digging through, because it's not like uh a good substitute for like sand or dirt or whatever. I can envision a world where the gel hangs on to too much moisture and there's potentially mold problems or problems with. Well, let me know when we're back. Or you could subscribe. Just a thought. Overstimulation Central. La di da di da di da. Okay, you're back. Thank you, Granola. I said first, Courtney. They don't send the queen. Then I said, well, you could subscribe so there's no ads. But yeah, so to finish Roach's question, I can see issues with molding with the high moisture and also potentially lack of breathability of the gel. But in general, they don't send full colonies. They only send workers. Now, Courtney's question, why don't they send queens? That's so weird. Typically, because if you are buying an ant farm for a child, you do not want to be setting that child up with a potentially 10 to 15 year commitment. In terms of keeping the colony alive, their ant colonies as a whole can live for a very, very long time. And so most people will probably not be super super into it. Also, if there is a queen, it will grow. We had Calypso in a little glass test tube for a while, and then when she outgrew that, we've moved her into this new container. If you only give them a set number of ants, you can give them an enclosure that is like the right size for it. So you can control, like, yeah, these ones are fine. You can put these 30 ants in. You can put these 30 ants in this container and they'll be fine for the next couple months. But the other thing is, getting queens in captivity is very tough. there is a big market, and there was in fact a big bust sometime within the last year of these guys going to Africa and smuggling out queen ants. Because again, the way that ant reproduction works is at like the colony level. So when this gets to be a certain size, they will produce winged individuals that will go off and mate with other individuals and then start new colonies. When I found Calypso, she was fresh off of her mating flight, and it was the right time of year, and there was no guarantee that she was mated, but she dropped her wings, which typically means that she's ready to settle down and like start the colony. So if you're breeding ants in captivity, you can have this colony, and like once it gets bigger, you could take 20 or 30 ants out of there and it wouldn't make a big deal. And you can you can have one main colony that produces all your ants, and then you can mail off little subsets of them when people order ant farms. But then to get another queen and another colony going, it would take another couple of years to get to a certain stage. So if you give the queen away, you're back to zero if you're going to be trying to sell the ants. So yeah, the ant farms are fine. They usually grab them from lab colonies of these massive, massive colonies. And just send you like 20 or 30, lets you have ants for a couple of months, and then they go, oh, that's fun. But if you have a queen, you have this progression of like going from no workers to a couple hundred workers, where you would have to continually upgrade the setup. This little box that they have, we go full cam here. They probably don't like this, but this is like a 4x4 little square thing, and this is certainly not going to last them forever. We're going to build essentially a bigger one of these, and also then potentially connect it to an outworld, which would be like a little tube that will allow them to travel between two different places. So when they're like foraging in one space and the nest is in another. I think normal people would panic when workers start to multiply. Yes, correct. Can make them acute term like hamster tubes. Yes. You can do it like hamster tubes. Most people don't. But like shut the fuck. I'm not gonna do that. Incognito. Oh, it's still blocked at that shit. What am I doing? Other screen. Here we go. So this is at the American Museum in New York, and all of these are connected with essentially like what you were saying, like hamster tubes. A typical ant outworld is going to look more like this, where it's just like a singular tube that connects to wherever you've got them going. But you can make it pretty crazy. Like this one here, the colony tube is up here in the red, and then they've got the connector down here to this bottom outworld. So you can connect it with hamster tubing, but it'll probably just be like a singular piece of tube. Something more akin to this. This is the foraging piece over here on the right, and then this is where they're nesting under this sand substrate. And then there's just the one tube that goes through. That seems so teeny. It depends on the ant. So, um, Calypso is a big ant. Florida carpenter ants are some of the larger sizes of ants. So she's going to need a lot more room when she's bigger, or when the colony gets bigger. But there are ants that are, you know, a 30th the size of Calypso, that their entire colony only gets to be like 1 or 200 workers, and they would be perfectly content under like a 1 by 3 glass slide. So it totally depends on the ant, and Calypso, like I said, is a big ant, so she needs more space. But you can keep lots of ants in much smaller containers because their colonies are just much smaller in general. Um, all ants are colony organisms, but some of the like earliest developing ants, like the earliest evolving ants, the basal social structure is like a loose accompaniment of maybe 20 ants. And so colony final size depends a lot on like the success of the species and what they're doing. Some things max out at like a 200 ant colony, while that is low to mid size for something like a Florida carpenter ant. So it totally depends on the species whether or not, or how big the colony can get. And that, of course, depends on, or that, of course, then dictates how big or small of a container they go into. There are some species of ant that the thing we have going for Calypso right now would be, their normal whole habitat is outside. So being something too big, is questionable. But this would be oversized for a lot of like full-fledged ant colonies. Uh just because of how small they are. I want more bugs so I can make cute little enclosures, but my family would not appreciate that. That is a bummer. I love Ants Canada. Yeah, I was super into ants. So I worked in an ant lab for 2 years in undergrad. And that was partially stemmed by the fact that I started watching Ants Canada like 10 years ago or whatever. And I approached this professor and I was like, "Hey, I want to get into keeping ants. Like, what's the sitch on that?" And she said, "We have live colonies in the lab. Why don't you come by and, volunteer for a little while before you, dive into it?" And I said, "Okay, yeah, that sounds great." I was volunteering there for a while. It was super fun. I was taking care of the ants, and I was also really good at pointing the ants, like mounting specimens. So I was doing that too. But then there was a paid position that opened up doing like data entry for some bark beetle project over in forestry. And so I I applied over there for that job, and I was going to keep doing both. But I went into lab meeting, and my ant boss was like, "Are you trying to leave me for my husband?" And I had like the spinny Mr. Krabs meme, and I was like, "What?" I didn't realize that professors would get married to each other and have different last names and also be in different departments. So that was the whole thing. And she was like, "Well, if you're looking for a paid position, we can probably make that work here if you want to stay here and work with the ants." And I said, "Yeah, absolutely." So I ended up working there for like 2 years. That was pretty cool. That was like my first paying bug job. Um, but I got my fill of Good one, Donkus. Good one. But I got my fill of ant keeping there, and then I started getting more into the tarantula side of things, like all the spiders and stuff. And I was really worried about the idea of ants getting out and like getting into my spiders and eating my spiders. So I just didn't have ants for a very, very, very long time. But then I have this my friend who started his PhD working in an ant lab, and he's got hundreds of colonies, and showed me how to set everything up. And every like when I went down and upgraded Calypso's tank, like or her enclosure here, he's the one that helped me do it. Um, I don't know. I kind of got over that fact, and I keep Calypso upstairs and everybody else is downstairs, so there's a little bit of separation. But I have enough experience and with enough different kinds of critters to not really be as worried about them escaping anymore as I was, 5-10 years ago. So yeah, I don't know. I think they're cool, and I think this has been a very fun process having it go from like one individual to what we see today, and hopefully will continue to grow. I'm an ant hater. Should I keep ants to change my mind? I don't think that's the right necessarily direction to go with that. Because what if you are an ant hater and then you get ants to change your mind and then you still don't like ants? Then you're just stuck with ants. Ants are scavengers, right? Are there any active hunters? Yes, totally. Driver ants or army ants are very, very active hunters. I could have dropped a live fly or cricket in here, and they probably would have still been able to do it. But I don't like the idea of the prey item potentially injuring the ants. So that's why we squished the cricket head to give them a little bit of a head start here. They would die after a few months. Well, if you had the queen, they wouldn't. And I I did have like one ant farm as a kid, and I thought it was really interesting, but really the cool behavior with ants all has to like center around with the queen. And so if there's no queen, again, it's not really the same as going with the other stuff. So I don't know. Yeah, you can keep watching Calypso and whatnot to get your ant fix. Maybe get over that a little bit. But ants are cool. Like I said, I worked in an ant lab for 2 years, so I'm a little bit, I have some connection to them or whatever. But I do think the interaction and all of their cool social structure is really, really fascinating. Could you freeze the crickets and thaw them out for the ants? Yes. I could, so they would be fine with that, I think. But I'm buying crickets every week for all of my other stuff anyway. So, having an extra one here to toss in to the ants is not a big deal. How are we feeling about the ants? Are we I mean, I know it's still interesting, but do we potentially want to move on to something different? Or should we save that for different stream? I guess I'm asking if we're gonna wait for them to finish this cricket or not. Or if we would like to move on to something else. Up to me, I'm bored. I'm not necessarily bored. But I did have one more thing on the list of like wrapping up 2025. Depends on what the next topic is. Okay, that's fine. Y'all remember seaweed bugs? This has been running since like the couple days after Christmas. And there is some good stuff in here. Okay, so we're fine moving on from the funnel, or we're fine moving on to the funnel from the ants. Okay, I'm gonna give you a couple more minutes of ants while I run to the bathroom. I don't have a BRB screen yet ready, so I will give you ants. But then when I come back, we will go through the funnel because I know there is some pretty good stuff in there. I peaked. I peaked. But okay, I will be back in just a few. Big ass spider on Alveus. Let's go see what that's about. Oh yeah, right there. That'll be a wolf. Ooh, frog. Yeah. Ooh, bangle. Yeah. I still think this is a wolf. Wolf spider and wolf enclosure. Yeah. Frankie Viking, is that the eyes reflecting infrared? Yes, indeed it is. So you want to hear more about this? Come to Alveus Chat Chats on Wednesday afternoons or Wednesday evenings, where we typically find lots of wolf spiders during the bug hunt section. Wolf spiders have a special lens in the back of their eye called a tapetum lucidum, which allows them to reflect and take in more light at night, so it helps them see better at night. It's the same structure in the back of the eye that allows like cats and dogs to have better nighttime vision. Uh so yes, it is the eyes reflecting. It's the eyes reflecting with the infrared there. So yeah. Yeah. Very cool. Thanks, y'all. Do you think they see the infrared that the camera puts out? No. I don't think so. I don't really have any backing behind that idea, but yeah, I think it's probably fine. Well, this one's here so late for you. Sorry, Dimitri. There is the Alveus Highlights channel though that has a playlist of all the old ones, and also in the Discord I recap whatever we talk about. So if they're late, and I know it's not the same getting to see them in person and being there live, but all of the information is still around. Also, check that out. I have VODs up now too. Look at all this. So everything going back to the beginning of October, all of these VODs exist now too. If you ever want to go back and watch ants eat a cricket again, you can do that. So this is here. I think it's really funny that it picked these two thumbnails at the same time. Maybe it'll do it a third time in a row. Maybe this is my thing now. But yeah, so we have VODs on this channel now if you are interested in going back and seeing any of these. It's mostly the Beetle ID stuff, but we do have that one like 6-hour Minecraft stream that we did. And also some of the other games and stuff. I haven't separated those VODs yet at all. So this one, we don't want to have to hear that. But this one goes through goes through bird pictures. And then this was when we were setting the funnel that we're going to talk about in just a second. And then we played web fishing. So it's not all educational stuff, but this VOD section does exist. Should anyone be interested? Anyway, okay. Everyone say goodnight to Calypso. And we shall see her again soon. We can do a little check-in on Wednesday when we do pre-chat chats and just see how they're hanging. So they're doing well on the cricket, and it is remarkably close to the hole. So maybe they've dismantled it enough and they're going to drag the rest down. I don't really know. But then over here, to wrap it up, we've got some feeding that's happening, some trophallaxis to feed each other the spoils of having gone through the cricket. And then back over here, a bunch of other individuals working around here with the queen and whatnot. Is trophallaxis an emote? Am I not seeing that? Twitch. Me, I'm live. Channel. Me, I'm live. Channel. Not me. It being pukers is very funny. That is quite good, Tortilla. You did excellent. I have another Discord, or is it on the web? It's just on the web. But there is a role selection channel in there if you want to get the Discord notifications when I go live. We talked about it in here, and I decided against doing a whole separate Discord because it's the overlap with on the web is going to be a lot. So we decided against doing a separate one totally, and we kind of came up with the compromise of having the go live notification thing going. So okay, we're good on ants for now. We shall set them off to the side. And then we can bring in our funnel of goodies. So for those of you that don't know what the hell I'm holding right now, this is a 2-liter soda bottle that is full of seaweed. And the reason that we have a 2-liter soda bottle full of seaweed is that on Christmas Day, I decided to spend the holiday down south looking for... Oh, we're in ads. Okay. We'll wait for a second. I can still sit here, pretend to talk. You know, we can... this up. You see the specimens in here? And then they fall out of this piece into the other container. Yeah. Someone let me know when they're back. Neat hats for Dimitri. I don't know. Did you not get them? Maybe you lucked out. Are we good? Are we back? I haven't gotten a single one this stream. Interesting. It's good for you. It doesn't even say that I'm running one right now. Are you back, Frankie Viking? Okay, you're back. Sick. Okay, so on Christmas, I went down and I was trying to collect a very tiny ground beetle that lives in the sand on the beach under seaweed mats. And so I took a big sifter and I was sifting sand for a couple hours, and I didn't find any of my beetle. But then I thought about it, and there is another way, thing that you can do with like soil samples is what we call floating or soil washing. You basically put a bunch of stuff in a bucket, fill it with water, and then really agitate it, zhuzh it around there in the bottom. And all of the light organic material floats to the top, and a lot of these insects that are in here are going to be really, really small. So they tend to float up with the other stuff, and you just skim the top layer off, and you agitate it again, and then you skim the top layer off, and then you let it dry for about a day, and then you run it through what is called a Berlese funnel. These can be quite big and quite complicated, or you can make them out of a Walmart soda bottle, which is in fact what we did here. So we cut it in half. So the top piece sits down inside this. And then there's also a very small piece of this like mesh here, so the insects will fall through. And then you put a light on top of it. The light makes the insects that are typically underground go, oh shit, the sun is out. So it forces them to crawl down through the material. And it's also drying it out from the top down. So they're wanting moisture, so they'll crawl to the bottom. And as they crawl to the bottom, they fall through the little mesh. And then they fall into our nice little beaker here full of ethanol. And so this is a really good way to get really, really tiny things. Some of the beetles that we're going to be looking at in just a second are like about a millimeter long. And in the big tangled mess of seaweed like this, you're just never going to find them going through with your hands, right? They're so small. They're tucked into all the nooks and crannies and bits in here that this is the good, like one of the only reasonable ways for you to find these things. And it takes time to go through this. We set this trap, or we put the seaweed in here, I think on the 27th. So it's been a little over a week. And there is still new stuff coming out of this. I checked a couple days in and I saw what was in there. And then I checked on Friday. And then I checked yesterday. There was something new that came out between Friday and yesterday. So we are going to pull out some of this stuff right now, but I'm going to let this run again for a while. And I think this is all pretty dried out. I don't know how much more we'll get out of it, but I would rather be safe and make sure we got everything than potentially miss something cool. I will say, right off the front, we did not get the thing that I was after. So we will be doing this again, probably on a much larger scale as well. I only thought about washing like this after I was already down where I was collecting. And typically what you do is you take like a stack of buckets to go do it next to somewhere with water. So if I'm at the beach, I can just fill it up on the beach and fill things up from there. So I will then run that through like a much bigger Berlazy funnel than just having this little desktop one. But there is still some very cool stuff in here that we are going to take a peek at now. And I have a container here with vials in it. These little 2 mil screw top tubes. And that's because I looked in some of this stuff, like I said before, and there are things in here that I think people at work might be interested in. So I have all of these little vials so I can do some separation. We're not going to sort everything into its own vial right now, but I will take the wasp. There's one wasp in here into work tomorrow to have someone else look at it. So we'll have these little things separated out, and I'm just going to put a little bit of ethanol in all of these, then with the specimens as we go through. Okay, who's ready? You're ready. I believe you're ready. So we are currently looking at the top layer of the vial contents. And we have all of our little floating springtails on the top right now. I don't know if we're going to be able to get this. There we go. So yeah, these are a bunch of little springtails that were in this seaweed, and this portion might be a little bit jumpy. Because they're in ethanol, so they're floating right now. So every little movement uh of the desk is going to make them shake around. But once we get down to the stuff in the bottom, it'll be a little bit more stable. But yeah, so right now, this entire top layer, I think, is springtails. You can see they're most, I would assume that these are all the same thing. At least the same family. But yeah, so nice little amalgamation here of springtails on the top. And you can see a lot of the other stuff down below. So, quick teaser. Oh, we come back up. We'll get back down to that stuff in a second, but I'm going to use a little pipette, just a little squeezy handheld one here, to get the springtails off the top and again sort them out into this little vial. The working distance under the scope is not great, so we are probably going to transfer this stuff into a watch glass like this for a better viewing experience. But I need to get these springtails off the top first before we do the rest of that. Skittles. I can see that. I could see that being a thing. All right, so we got a lot of the springtails off. Now I'm going to use the same pipette to suck up a lot of the stuff that's on the bottom and then transfer it into the watch glass. So it'll be less alcohol that we have to look through. So everything will kind of be closer together and I hope easier to see once we have it over here in the other glass. There's a couple of big things in here too that probably aren't going to fit inside the pipette, so we might have to scrape some out with a pair of forceps or something. Right now, like I said, I'm just trying to clear everything off of the bottom because there are some very small things in here that we are still interested in. Slurp. Um, side. Get this stuff moving a little bit. Quick port. That did not work as well as I'd hoped. Stupid. Stupid. Alright. That's good enough, I think. I will have to do some maintenance and check all this when we're done here, but I think we're at a pretty good starting place at least. Everyone say hello to the goodies. So we are actually loaded down with good stuff in here. I know we talked about these before, but these things here, these kind of wide set beetles with the bent antennae, this is a genus of Hysterid or clown beetle called Halocritus. Ooh, what are you? That's just a different springtail. Okay. These things are a Florida endemic, meaning that they're only found. Mari, thank you. I think you are my first verified chatter. That's sick. Thank you, thank you. Ella goodies. You spy wasp. Yes, they're in here too. There are grubs in here as well. So there are lots and lots of goodies in here. I don't think Maya has chatted. And that's crazy, if I do say. I do think that is quite crazy that she has not, but it's fine. CEO's busy. She doesn't pay me to chat in my own stream. She pays me to chat in her streams, so it's fine. It's fine. Not a big deal. Do not. I'm not going to call her out. You guys shouldn't call her out either. It's totally fine. She can watch my VODs if she wants to see what's going on over here. So these, again, Halocritus, these... Nope. Here. Nope. Here. So like 1, 2, 3, 4. Looks like the bug me on the Lion King. Slimy yet satisfying. Those hysterids, those clown beetles, are endemic to Florida, meaning that they're only found here. And they are also only found in like seaweed habitats like this. So very cool find. When I got these, I messaged a friend of mine who has been working on insects longer than I've been alive, who is a specialist in clown beetles. I messaged him and I was like, hey, I think this is what this is. And he goes, holy shit, I've been to Florida a bunch of times trying to collect this thing and I've never been able to get it. And I talked to my boss at work who also doesn't specialize in these, but has worked on this group enough that I told him, I was like, oh, I got Halocritus. And he goes, no, you didn't. And I went, yeah, I did. Not only did I get Halocritus, I got a lot of them. There are probably... Well, we'll go through and see. But I have this other vial, too, of stuff that we picked up just moving the slop over. And there's like 10 in here, which is more than a lot of these people that actually work on this group have ever collected. And so I think this is like the highlight probably for me of what's in here, was finding this fairly rare beetle. And it's one of those things where You just have to do the right thing in the right place, or else it doesn't really make sense. Um, Things can be rare and only known from like one or two specimens, and then it takes one guy doing some specific collecting technique or something to the term that we use in the community is unrare something. So you're like, oh yeah, like I figured out how to collect that thing back in the 80s. Like I unrared that. Um, because once you know the collecting technique, finding a lot of these things gets a lot easier. And I talked to some of these guys, and they said, they're like, oh yeah, like I've run plenty of seaweed through a Berlazy funnel, which is exactly what we did. And I said, well, did you wash it first? And they was like, well, no, we didn't float it. And I was like, well, there's your answer. Uh, if you just put the bulk seaweed in, you'll get some of it. But a lot of the things will be able to stay in there because it's so moist that they're able to hang out, and then a lot of things would just dry out in there and die and not crawl all the way to the bottom. When you have a reduced but really concentrated area of where the live stuff is, so again, when you float this, you only skim off the top layer, and in theory, all of the live stuff had floated up. So when you skim that top layer, you're getting all of the goodies that were in the entire bundle of seaweed. And so then they have a limited amount of place to be able to crawl down through in this contraption, and maybe people don't do that. Maybe people have not floated seaweed like this before. And maybe we're onto something, chat. I don't know. It's a whole thing. But yeah, so I'm very stoked on those beetles, even though we did not find my beetles. We did find some pretty cool stuff. So first order of business is going to be go and try and pick out all of these little beetles. These ones specifically, again, I'm going to be sending off, so these are also going into a separate vial. Miss Alice, thank you for the follow. Welcome in. We are currently looking at insects that came out of seaweed. So we got one, and we got two, and we got three, and we got four. And we got this guy here that's covered in a bunch of other stuff. I've lost count already. Is this 4? Is this 5? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, we're at 5. 6. I dropped that one. Oops. 7. 8. 9. And 10. Pretty good start. We're at 10. We're certainly not done yet. Oops, 5. See, I can't count either. It's the whole thing. So 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. You get us to count. When you get us to Mike, we shouldn't believe you. I never said that. 21, 22, 23, 4. Oops. Crushed that one, but that's 25. 6. 7. 8. 29. And 30. 31. 32. 33. 4. 5. 30. 36. That is that a bunch of microplastics. It could remind. We're at 36. Remind me of that, chat. I think that might be all of them, but we'll have to go back and look. So it's maybe, but I think the more likely explanation is stuff like this right here. This piece of fiber, was something that came out of my AC system, which doesn't necessarily make it better. But I did not like wipe out this watch glass before we put it in it, and it's been sitting on my desk for weeks. So it's possible that's just like dust and debris and stuff that like was in here. I don't know that it specifically came out of the seaweed, but it wouldn't necessarily be surprising. And also, I don't think the fact that it came out of the air rather than the seaweed is necessarily better. It's still kind of shitty that all of these little bits and pieces are in here, and what, could have been a very natural sample. But when I was out there sifting by hand, there were tons of cigarette butts. There was tons of garbage and stuff in it, so I wouldn't be surprised if they were actually microplastics. We're at 36. Keep that in mind. Keep that pinned. There are these larvae in here now that are kind of obvious. You can see them real big thing here in the middle of the screen. I do not know what this is from. This, to me, it does not have any legs. And so I am leaning towards the fact that this is a fly larva of some sort. If we zoom in on this guy up top here, you can see it has that bulge on the bottom side, right where that stiff bristle is the eye. So we're looking at like the underside of the head capsule right now. And so I'm betting this is a fly, but I truthfully do not know. But because they're so big here in the sample, I'm just going to pull these out separately, just so we have a little bit more working room on some of the smaller stuff. So keep 36 pinned because we're going to go back to those beetles. But I am just going to pull out these guys at the moment. Cool. Oh, I'm glad you like it, Jules. I think this stuff is like, and I mean, there's a lot of good content, but I think this stuff is like the best of entomology offerings, because I am showing you things that you otherwise would never really consider. Right? I'm showing you all of the little stuff that gets overlooked, and when people are talking about insects, they're not usually thinking about stuff that is this small. So, looks like we are good on... Oh, there's one more. Alright. So we've pulled the larvae out. Oh, Jules is in an ad. Granola, thank you so much. Thanks for gifting that sub to Jules. What I was saying, Jules, was I think this is like some of the coolest stuff that entomology has to offer, even though it's super, super tiny. This is like stuff that people don't get to see very often. And I know that my like aha moment, and like one of the things that really made me want to get into entomology long term, was seeing stuff under the microscope. There's a difference between being like, oh yeah, like you can see these beetles, right? And you're like, oh yeah, like it's a bug. But then you get it up under the microscope and you can see all of the little hairs and divots and facets in the eye and like all of this super tiny detail. And that is a really special experience, is getting to see something that you can see with your naked eye, but getting to see parts of it that you otherwise wouldn't be able to. This stuff, this soup of seaweed bugs that we're looking at right now, is so far beyond that in terms of like, you would never consider all of the bugs that are in a, 2-foot square piece of seaweed. And there's so much neat stuff in here that it's like, this is so cool. I love doing this, and I'm glad you guys are enjoying it too. Because not everything is going to have to come out of seaweed, but going through trap samples, so like pitfalls, black lights, any of that sort of stuff, if you guys are into that, this is going to be wonderful content over the summer. Because we're going to have a lot of bugs to go through. Okay, so the larvae are pulled out. I think we got all those beetles. Yeah, we got all of those beetles, so you can unpin 36. Thank you, Tortilla. I appreciate your help. One of the things that I was definitely here looking for, that somebody at work is quite interested in, is going to be this little guy. I know it's probably not in focus for you because it's in focus for me, which means you guys can't see it. Little guy. So getting beetles in a really obscure habitat like this is pretty common. You know, beetles are known for their ability to like do anything and be anywhere. It's not that common that you get a flighted wasp in like a floated sample, because that means that this wasp was in the seaweed when I picked it up. What is it doing there? Well, this is a parasitoid wasp. I don't know what family this is. I am not a Hymenopterist, so I actually have no clue what this is. Thankfully, I work with one, so I can have him tell me what it is tomorrow, and then I'll relay that information back to you guys. But this was cool to me, even though I'm super stoked on my little tube of beetles here. These are like my prize. But I bet this wasp is going to be something really cool. Just because Hymenopterus aren't collecting in seaweed. Entomology professor studied parasitic wasps. Oh, parasitoid wasps. Very cool. Don't say it in here, but if you're willing to provide a little bit of information, message me. Let me know who that is. Because there's a lot of people that do parasitic wasps, and it's really cool stuff. But yeah, so I don't know what this is. This is some sort of parasitoid. This is going to be super neat. So I am quite excited that we found this. And I am going to pick it up and put it in its own little vial. So I can make my rounds tomorrow morning, dropping off all of these little vials of stuff for other people. Great. So we moved on from that, and we have a couple more categories of stuff to sort out of here. Self to Evan. It's an honor, and I promise I will not redox. I have a general idea, but that's neither here nor there. Okay. What should we do next? I think the plan is to pull out other beetles now. Smiles in the office is going to be wonderful. I will say, our Hymenopterist at work, everyone that I work with is lovely. Everyone is phenomenal in their field. They're great at what they do. I can't get a read on if our Hymenopterist guy likes me or not. He's never been mean, but he just hasn't been as openly friendly as everyone else has. And that might just be his personality, but I am a little conscious about it. And so I knocked in his office today and I was like, hey, how interested are you in like random parasitoid wasps from around Florida? Because he doesn't typically work on Florida stuff. He works on tropical stuff. And he said, well, you know, if you get it, bring it in. Like, I'd like to see it at the very least. If it's nothing, you know, it might not be good. And I said, totally fair. A lot of the stuff is probably not good, or, you know, might be a commonplace thing. And he said, well, you know, what was your collecting technique? It is roach. We'll get there in a second. I haven't been paying attention. Well, why not? I know why not. You're probably watching Shrukus right now. But I told him, and he was like, "Oh, seaweed! You got a wasp in seaweed? That's so cool." So he's excited about this already without having seen it. And so I'm quite. Chandler's getting de-haired by Maya. He's shaving his head. Hold on. Pause. Damn, that's crazy. He's not bald yet, so we'll have to come back to that. But yeah, so I think he's going to be really excited about this, and I do hope that this is a bridge to maybe him liking me more. I don't think he dislikes me. It just might, he's just not like a super outwardly friendly guy. But let's look through a couple things here and see what our other options are. So obviously all of these springtails are still needing to be sorted out. But I think my plan is to do the rest of the beetles next. How many of your coworkers are autistic? I don't know, and I don't know that that is an appropriate workplace question. I was going to assume my vibes. Hot tubs and pools. Casual, what's up? How are you doing? So we pulled out the hysterids because those are going off to specialist. But this is also a little beetle. This is a featherwing beetle. And so I think my next course of action is to remove all of the rest of the beetles. We have seen these before, yes. I think we looked at them in this batch of stuff, like when we were first putting this trap together, or putting the funnel together. So we had some other featherwings up here. They're called featherwings because they have wings that look like feathers because they don't need the membrane. They're so small that they basically just like vibe on air current. And so this is one of the types of beetles that are left in here. We also have featherwing beetle, but even fucking smaller. This is option 2. So that guy on the right is also a featherwing beetle. And so to give an idea of how small this is right now, this, no idea if this is going to focus well. But that is the head of an... Damn! This camera is crazy. That focused insanely quickly. But so you see how small the head of this insect pin is? This little ball here on the end. I'm going to place it down now next to these little beetles. And you will see just how tiny they are. Trying to find my place in the... So that is the head of the pin next to these itty bitty tiny beetles. So it gives you a sense of scale of just how tiny these things are. How many angels can dance on the end of that? I don't understand your reference, Casual. I'm sorry. Have I seen your beetle phone case? Yes, I did. I think you posted in one of the Discords. I should what? Oh, change my category. Oh, Wrinkle in Time. Maybe. Seaman regretting his idea. Oh, it's happening. Hold on. I know this is not... The boy's getting shaved. That's funny. He had such, like, fluffy hair, too. Anyway. Anyway, we'll go back to Beatles. Chandler will be bald when we go back. Confession, I did not know the Beatles came this small. That's a fair confession. So these are the smallest non-parasitic insects that exist. There are wasps that are smaller than this, but the smallest featherwing beetle is 0.3 of a millimeter. So they're so tiny. Oh, dude, he's freaking out. Anyway, but yeah, so beetle, you're never going to, like, you wouldn't think about beetles being this small, right? And that's like part of the fun of the microscope, is that you uncover this whole other little world that exists down here that you wouldn't otherwise know about. So the plan for these, because they're so small, is I'm going to try and suck them up with the little pipette again, and then just put them into the waiting vial. And we'll go around and do that for the rest of these things. I like to, as you can see, I like sorting out all of the stuff in one go. So I'll do like all of one type of insect, and then I'll go do all another. I'll do all another type of insect. So we did all of the clown beetles. We did the one wasp. Now we're doing all of the other beetles. So we've got plenty of teleoids or featherwing beetles to go look at and pull out. We also have these guys, which are staphylinids or rove beetles. These are the ones that have the shortened elytra. I don't know anything about the idea of these beyond staphylinids at the moment. But these are still pretty small too. More featherwings here. Mites. We got beetles. We got mites. Okay. We will come back to that in a second because I know people are excited about it. There's one other beetle in here that I am particularly jazzed about. And that is this guy. So this one is also this one is also a staphylinid. But this is a subfamily called Pselaphines. That's Pselaphinae. Cool snack pack. On a quizzing conservative turbulent earwig. Classic mistake. But this one in the middle here is a Pselaphine, which is a subfamily that are known as ant-loving rove beetles. Typically, you find them in ant colonies or in leaf litter, really like foresty habitats more than anything. I've never found one along the coast, and I've never even like considered that was an option. So I haven't checked with anyone yet, and I haven't keyed that out to see what it is. I think that's also going to be a banger of a beetle that came out. Are they cleanup crews for ants? No, they're nest mates. So they... This is the one that I had the other beetles in. Yes. They infiltrate the ant nest, and sometimes they use chemicals to basically disguise themselves as one of the ants. And that means that the ants would then feed them, so they would trophylax for the beetles. But the other option is that the ants disguise themselves with the beetles, disguise themselves with the ant chemicals to then sneak in and eat the baby ants. So those are like your two options for being an ant inquiline. You can either get fed by the ants, or you can sneakily sneak in and feed on the ants. Mission Ant Possible is very funny. I like that a lot. They are like ant nest squatters, yes. And so they'll either like be in with ant colonies or at least like adjacent to ant colonies. The fact that I didn't find any ants in any of this floating stuff, and the fact this was like on a beach, is very interesting to me. So I have a feeling that is also going to be a pretty cool, probably fairly uncommon species. Again, just because it's a collecting technique that people don't really use. And so not many people have probably found this thing. Would just be my hunch. So, carefully suck up the beetles and put them into the vial. So I'm just going to go around and get the best of my ability the rest of the beetles. I'm probably going to end up sucking up a bunch of these springtails that are left here on the bottom, and that's fine. I have most of my springtails separated out, so someone can look at them, and if I need to separate these later, I can just pick out the few springtails that are left rather than going through all of them. Maybe it's just on some leaf litter that got blown in. Yeah, that's possible. The thing is, the area that I was in did not seem to have many deciduous trees that would produce leaf litter like I would expect these guys to be found in. Not saying that there wasn't any, but it was not very foresty because I was on the beach. And with how specific a lot of this other stuff is to being beach adapted, I wouldn't be surprised if this is just like a weird one that I've never heard of before. Rather than try to think about like all of the super complex things, it's a very fair thing to just assume that there's a weird bug doing something crazy. Because that's like a valid and normal thing that happens is bugs doing weird stuff. All right. Good night, Granola. Thanks for hanging out. This has been getting on to be a pretty long one, and like I started a little bit late. I'm going to try to wrap up here in the next 20 minutes, though, so I can go to bed at a reasonable hour like a responsible adult. But thanks for stopping by. Again, as always, it has been a pleasure. Happy New Year. Welcome to 2026. We got lots more bug stuff ahead of us this year, so come on back. All right, let's keep going. You thought we need to come back and look at that. Alright, that looks... That looks like most of the beetles. I'll go through and pick out individuals specifically, if I missed any, but for right now, that's probably good. We won't be finding any more of those, so that's fine. Okay, next thing, Roach, if you're still here, or back from making lunch or whatever, we got this guy. Nice little pseudo scorpion. Not a true scorpion. Pseudo scorpion. So this is a whole different order of arachnids that has converged on this like elongate body plan with big claws. Just like regular scorpions, those claws are the pedipalps. As you can see, there are 4 pairs of legs, which makes 8. And arachnids all have 8 legs, plus the claws. So a lot of people, when they draw scorpions, will draw 3 pairs of legs plus claws. No. There are 4 pairs plus the claws, because the claws are a separate structure that are not legs. And so this, it looks a lot like a regular scorpion, obviously, just kind of without the tail. which is why they got the names of pseudo scorpions. Pseudo meaning like fake or false. Never seen one on a microscope. Such a treasure. Pokey bits at the snoot. Those are the chewing tools. They sure are. So these have chelicery. The whole... Is that true? Yes. So arachnids belong to a larger evolutionary group called Chelicerata or Chelicerata, depending on who you talk to, but it's Chelicerata. And I say chelicery, but I've been told that's wrong. I don't care. The chelicery on them are sort of like little pinchers that kind of chew like this. And so this pseudoscorpion basically has two pairs of little, as Casual said, pokey-looking bits at the snoot. So they have, yeah, the little chewers up top there. We can zoom in just a little bit more. This is 50x now. And you can kind of see how it's like there are two of them there, so it's like two pairs of structures that are... Chelicerata would be a sick clan name. I agree. So this is an arachnid, so not an insect, but there were some other arachnids in here as well. I don't know if you guys had spotted them. Nicole, hello, happy new year, good to see you. We're looking at bug soup. Oh, roach, there you go, okay. Yeah, so we're at the pseudoscorpion now, because our next category of critter that we're going to pull out of here are the arachnids. And so we got the pseudoscorpion, but we also have a bunch of mites that you guys have probably seen as we've been combing around through here. This is as far I've returned from communing with the trees. Yeah, but you're just going to go back. It's like me saying I'm returned from communing with the bugs. They're always coming back. That we might have seen. Yeah. So there's a bunch of these guys. I don't know how different they are from one another. I don't know if we've got multiple species or anything here. But we are going to pull the arachnids again for our arachnid person at work. So if there's something interesting, I'll report back, I suppose. But we are going to move this into the little container, the little vial here with the pseudoscorpion as well. Just to get some expert eyes on it, because I am not an arachnologist. I could probably do something with the pseudoscorpion. There are keys available for those, and I'm not super bad at them, but mites are crazy. Mites almost, I wouldn't say exclusively, but very heavily rely on ketotaxy, which is the fancy way of saying what hairs are where. So when you're looking at and IDing mites, the difference between like whole families of mites are where certain hairs are placed or not. And I simply, as a coleopterist, cannot get behind that. You need a compound scope because you need to mount slides, or you need to mount mites on slides. And so even this microscope, which is pretty good, and even my other really good microscope aren't good enough for identifying mites. It's a whole separate process. It is very, very detailed and beyond my realm of understanding. Ketotaxi, close casual. It's CHAETO TAXY. Ketotaxi. Good night, Donkus. Thanks for hanging out, and thank you again for the lovely art piece. Much appreciated, even though I bought it. It wasn't a gift, but well worth it. Yeah, so mites are crazy hard to ID. And another thing with mites is that they go through different life stages. And it's quite possible that this mite that we're looking at right now is maybe a different life stage of these super round ones that we were just looking at. It could also be different. It could be the same or it could be different. Those are kind of like the two options, right? But it wouldn't super surprise me if these turned out to all be the same thing. Let's go around. We're looking at the only fly that's in here. So I'm just going to pull this out now. I think this is a family called Ephigridae, which are known as shore flies. And they, as you can imagine, breed along the shore. So, maybe. Can I show how small the pipette is in the face cam? I can try. So this is what we're using. Ultra high tech eyedropper, basically. There's the opening. Bigger than you were expecting. Well, that's fair. We have been looking at a lot of Jesus Christ, Tortilla. We have been looking at a lot of smaller stuff, but to be able to pick up those beetles, you need a slightly larger opening. So this is about an average hole, I would say. You can have those like the pipettes where you push the button and stuff, but those are really expensive, and those have like super fine tips, so you would be able to pick up some of the really, really tiny stuff, but you probably wouldn't be able to get most of like these bigger beetles that we already pulled out. So I've gotten pretty good at like half pressing the bulb up here at the top to be able to like just barely pick it up, so there's only a little bit of liquid in here, and then I can push it back out. Sorting things with this is some people are fast at it, some people aren't. I've gotten pretty okay at it. And you've seen how I kind of like tease it to get the right thing that we were trying to pick up. So let's what else we got? There's a mite here. Move these springtails out of the way. Get the mite. Get the mite. Mite. Oh, here's a cluster of 3. I'll take those. Another mite here. Another mite here. 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 And another. Oh, fly. I did lose one. You saw that? I got it back though. Recovered. Okay. So the rest of this is like 90% springtails, and there's a couple more beetles in here that I will need to pull out. Oh, there's actually a whole section of mites that I missed. Embarrassing. You guys can see there's like 5 right down here. Yeah, so now the plan is to go through and pull out the last of these little beetles. But I am getting sleepy. And we've gotten most of the stuff out. So I think that's a pretty successful haul, honestly. Those 36 clown beetles was enough for me. But to get the pseudoscorpion, which I think is probably going to be pretty neat, and also that other rove beetle that was a little bit odd looking, I think those are going to turn out to be really cool, and I think this is going to be a really cool way to collect things, since I live at a place that has a beach now. So I might get real into seaweed. You guys can see that. I could be a seaweed guy. Which I will until I find my damn beetle that I'm looking for, which is probably more in the sand and probably more going to be collected during the summer. But we are going to have to try that out. Okay, we are just about wrapping up here. There is one more thing that I wanted to show. And that is now that because we don't have an integrated webcam anymore, we can tilt, pan, and zoom around the room. Buckets of seaweed all over my kitchen. You're not wrong. Lyndon, hello. We got lots of buggies. But I had to do some redecorating. You can see that this is closer and this is also stacked back up. And the reason for that is that we picked up some new cabinetry. So that is a brand new bug cabinet that I'm going to have to fill with this stack of drawers here. So we've got a lot of expansion space. And now we can organize the collection a little bit better. Me. I got some new expansion space. But we as in chat. But the other nice thing about this new webcam is, if you'll humor me for a minute, we got hand cam. And so what I am envisioning with this, you can see my vape. I'm gonna need you to be more specific, because right now we have a weevil larva and we have another tube full of bug. But we do have the Stream Deck, the mouse, and everything. But yeah, so we've got hand cam, which cards is very funny, Rocksters, because I was sorting my collection the other day. So we could do Pokemon cards if we wanted to. But this was in fact not what we got it for. I thought about doing exactly Tortilla. Read my freaking mind. Butterfly pinning, or pinning in general. Because under the microscope we had pretty limited working distance. And so you weren't really able to see my hands, and I wasn't able to get in there and do stuff. But now with this, granted you're upside down at the moment, so I could probably flip the camera in OBS. But I would be able to have the styrofoam here, and we can like move specimens around and put pins and labels and do all this sort of stuff. So yes, this was another mouse paid. I got a small mouse paid roach. Enjoy your typo. But yeah, so I think this is going to be a cool addition. To be able to actually do some more pinning stuff, and we can definitely do a prep stream now, because it's going to be a lot easier to show you, like, putting the insect on the pin and making sure it's straight and everything like that. So I thought this was cool and a potential good use of investment now that we could rip a new kind of stream. And it's easy to just pop this back up and tilt you back down to normal streaming height. A little bit crooked. Let me try it again. Okay, now we're good. It's a small mouse pad. I agree. I mean, I think it is a normal mouse pad, but for computer setups like this, I think it is probably a pretty small one. But this is like a standard office mouse pad, I'm pretty sure. Okay, cool. So we went through a lot of good stuff. We found a lot of cool stuff in the seaweed soup. I'm going to run the funnel again. I'm going to put the container back under it to see if we get anything else in the coming days. But with that, it has been going on 4 hours, and I need to go to bed because I have a big boy job. iCarly mousepad from a 2008 Subway kids meal. That's sick. You would think that, Roach, but I found something new in there between Friday and Sunday. Between Friday and Sunday. So, something new has come out in the last, 2 days. Just to double check, make sure. Because the other thing that could be happening is that we floated stuff up and there were pupae in the seaweed. And so we're giving time for stuff to hatch, to emerge, and then fall down into our cup. I also think it's probably done at this point, but no guarantees. What if the beetle that I'm after shows up tomorrow? So we're gonna put it back and see what happens, and I will report back. Report back. He's done already? Did they go live? Going for an hour. Oh, okay. Well, I guess I'm gonna send you to Baldler. Or an email just came in. No, I was trying to see who to raid. I guess I'll send you to Chandler. Be sure to make fun of his haircut, please. That would be Creating a channel for the bald. I see. I see what happened. Okay, well, that's going to be it for us tonight. Thank you everyone for hanging out. Welcome to 2026. I didn't talk about upcoming stream plans, but I think it's going to be a pretty fun year. We got a lot of year ahead of us, so we have a lot of time to work on some things. Exciting, exciting. Okay, thanks everyone. Appreciate you for being here. I am going to send you to Chandler. Good night, everyone. Bye-bye. Smell you later. Bye. Right now, go.